Hey guys, this is Alex Chamberlain, and we're here with another little low-budget iPhone review on the Trek Rail 7. So this is actually a full aluminum build, and it's actually, I think, the second lowest end bike they make, or second tier out of 5. I think it goes Rail 5, 7, then 9.7, 9.8, 9.9. So yeah, the second tier build, and I think it retails for $5,999. And this is an e-bike, and it comes with the Bosch Gen 4 motor. And yeah, I just want to tell you kind of my thoughts. I did one ride on it, so not enough to test durability or anything like that. Just really a first impression video. For starters, this bike is like 52 pounds, which sounds heavy, and I think it's 6 pounds heavier than my Levo, but it carried its weight really well and honestly felt lighter and more lively than my Levo. I actually rode a Santa Cruz Heckler the other day, and it almost felt like that weight, which I think is 47 pounds. So 5-pound difference, and it had the same feeling on trail. Like super poppy, almost doesn't feel like an e-bike type of feel. Whereas I've only ridden 3 e-bikes, so the Heckler, the Levo, and this Rail. And honestly, the Levo of all of them feels the most like e-bike-ish, which is a benefit sometimes and not a benefit in others. Like the Levo tracks the best through the rough, but this is more lively. Like this one was way more playful on jumps and everything. And this bike is also 29-inch wheels, whereas the Heckler was 27.5 wheels. And I thought the small wheels is why the Heckler was kind of more playful, but honestly, this was just as playful with the big wheels, so who knows. But some things spec-wise I wanted to comment on were this dropper post. It's only a 130 mil drop. Obviously, there's a lot of room there. I don't think 130 is necessarily acceptable, but they do have a little kink here, so there might have been room restrictions. But 150 minimum, 170 preferred would be nice. I know some people want 200 mil posts, but that's not going to happen for a while, so a 170 would be nice. Also, it's my first time riding Shimano shifting on an e-bike, and you guys know I prefer Shimano on normal bikes, but it's even more pronounced on the e-bike because you can shift under load, whereas on a SRAM derailleur, when you shift under load, it clunks. Actually, if you've seen my Levo cassette, it's all torn up and the teeth are off from harsh shifting. Actually, I have it right here. I could show you. Oh, this is I broke the free hub on the Levo, so I had to switch wheels. This is the bad cassette. Oh, the free hub's broken, so it doesn't spin backwards. But yeah, just tons of broken teeth. You can see that on the SRAM cassette. So I'm pretty confident that the Shimano cassette would not have those same issues. It shifts much more crisp. There was not one harsh shift on my entire ride. And then I was pretty happy with the Shimano brakes. They're not even like a family name by Shimano. They're not even a Dior. But honestly, they have similar performance to SLXs and XTs. So really didn't mind those. And then one complaint I had was the Yari fork. It's really hard to set it up to not dive. And to make it not dive, you kind of have to have enough air pressure where it makes it harsh. So even with the setup I had some brake dive into corners, and then my hands would kind of like just get a ton of harshness and chatter through them. So I wasn't a huge fan of the Yari. It's kind of similar to the Lyric I rode on a Stumpy Evo a couple months ago. I just could never really dial it in. I know I've spent a ton of time on Fox forks and I have them pretty dialed, so maybe that's super biased, but I've had a really tough time setting up RockShox forks to feel as good as a Fox fork. But in contrast, I really like the rear suspension of this bike, and I've always liked RockShox rear shocks. I've thought they're very easy to set up. But the suspension was super planted, super poppy, no real negatives. I enjoyed it. It pedaled really well. One thing was maybe when I leaned back to go for a manual or like squatted in, the shock didn't compress as much, so I felt like it took a little bit more force to get up into a manual or wheelie. But that's nitpicking pretty hard. But what else? The motor. So I heard rumors about the Bosch motor having a slight little rattle. I'm not sure if it was the motor or what it was, because this doesn't have Shimano fins on the brakes. But I did hear a little rattle when I was going downhill. It sounded like a Shimano pad rattle. It could have been cable rattle. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. It's kind of frustrating to be, the bike feels so good, so planted, and then you hear this micro rattle, and it just, you don't feel it through your feet, but you hear it, and it just kind of like hears like something might be loose. So if you're comfortable with Shimano, if you run Shimano brakes with the pads and you don't notice, then you probably won't notice on this bike. But if you're kind of hypersensitive to sounds, it's something I noticed and was slightly frustrating. One other negative, sorry, this is all over the place, but kind of just my thoughts. This controller kind of looks like it's off of a commuter bike from Amsterdam or something, I don't know. But it's not the most ergonomic, in my opinion. But it's there, and if you like to see your mile per hour, that's kind of cool. But one thing I really liked was the E-Mtb mode. It kind of replicates like an automatic mode, and it kind of, if you're not pedaling very hard, it slows down the help. If you're pedaling pretty hard, it feels like full-on turbo mode. So whereas on my Levo, I ride a lot of 5-road climbs, not really single track climbs in my area. And then at the top of these climbs, it usually has rolling hills. So on those rolling hills, I keep switching between modes, like eco on the flat stuff, trail when it's approaching the climb, and then when it gets really steep, I'll hit it to turbo. But this kind of like modulates it for you. So I shifted through the modes to try them all, but I found myself just staying in E-Mtb mode because it was my favorite. It did everything I needed it to do, and I would just ride it in E-Mtb mode all the time and never really switch because there's not really a reason. When you're going uphill and you're pedaling hard, it kind of replicates turbo anyways, so I didn't feel like I needed to be in turbo full time. And it felt really natural rolling over grades and stuff where it flattened out, it didn't spike. And then one thing on the the Bros motor on the Specialized is after you're done pedaling, it will like over rev for you. So the motor will still be working for another second or two. So I've had some weird, sometimes it's cool if you time it right, but I've had some stuff where I'm pedaling into a jump or something and like very slow speed, like drop off something. And the motor will keep revving after you're done pedaling and it will have this weird spike off a drop, which is very interesting. So this didn't have that, which was really nice. I even think the Shimano motor on the Heckler had a little bit of that delay. But I think my favorite thing about the Bros motor is you can pedal over 20 miles per hour. So on the Levo, it like shuts you down. Like you have so much drag once the motor is off that it's not even worth pedaling over 20 miles per hour. But you get on the Bosch motor and you can pedal like a normal bike when you're above that speed limit. So I noticed again, like pedaling into jumps, because on the Levo, there's one little road gap I can barely clear because I can't pedal into it. But on this bike, I was able to pedal the whole way like it was a normal bike and get that extra like 2 or 3 miles per hour to clear the road gap effortlessly. So that was really nice. So overall, for $6,000, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. I don't really know. What's funny is I don't really notice like the components too much. So like I know the SLX components are heavier than the equivalent SRAM I'm running on my Levo, but I don't know if the components necessarily matter as much on an e-bike. Like you want really good suspension, you want really good brakes, and obviously a dropper that fits you. But other than that, I don't know if I see a reason to buy like XTR on your e-bike. I think you can get away with a 100% like SLX group set and be completely happy. And as long as you have like a Fox Performance Fork or Marzocchi Bomber or whatever level suspension, I think you'll have a good time on any e-bike out there. So that was kind of weird. I'm not trying to keep you from buying a $12,000 bike, but I think between the $5,000 and $6,000 range, you can find a really solid bike out there. And yeah, so it was kind of all over the place, but my general thoughts are this is probably the most fun e-bike I've ridden to date. Obviously, I haven't ridden a bunch of them. I really enjoyed it. I like that it has a 625 watt hour battery, which I ended up killing on my ride. So I don't know how people ride with a 500 watt hour battery, because I have a 700 on my Levo and I ride till it's dead all the time. And even the 625 I rode till it was dead. So I don't think I would get enough riding in on a 500 watt hour. So yeah, 625 is totally appropriate for like an after work ride or a couple hours. But I'm just asking for more and more battery every time. So yeah, super fun bike, a little bit of rattle, but definitely would recommend this bike. I had a lot of fun on it, honestly. Hopefully I'll have some other normal bikes on the channel later on, maybe some more e-bikes, but stay tuned for more. Bye.